Hello, how's everybody doing today?
Hi.
Hi, sweetheart.
Hi, Mimi.
Hi, Anna.
You find your buyer a house yet in Largo?
No, not yet.
It's crazy out there.
It is. I'm going to go knock on some doors.
That can create opportunities, that's for sure.
That's right.
Or circle prospect those neighborhoods. You know all that. You know all that. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
How's everybody doing today?
Good afternoon.
Super fantastic. All right, tell me something good. What's going on in your world that you're excited and happy about? Not much, huh?
I'll go. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mimi. Go, Mimi.
That's okay. I got a listing. I'm so excited. It's
Congratulations.
on the market in a couple weeks. Yeah.
That's great. Way to go.
First of many on my own here. And it was actually it was a realtor referral. So that was cool.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I know how you got it, but tell everybody. I think that would help. How you did it. How you set yourself apart from every other agent that could have possibly had it.
Sure. So someone was on our Facebook group. Marianne Hoffbar went on the Facebook group and asked if anyone would take a listing in Hudson. And I'm at the cusp of Pasco and Pinellas, so Hudson's 30 minutes from me, not a big deal. And everyone commented on the post, but I picked up the phone and called her. And I have a great relationship with Marianne, and because I called her, she gave it to me.
There you go.
And so yeah, I wasn't gonna just leave a message on Facebook and hope she'd pick me.
It's amazing how the phone can be an out of the box method of communication, huh?
Amen. That's right. And
Go ahead.
yeah, exactly. Pick up the phone. So it was cool, and it's an awesome family that we're gonna help, and so I'm excited. So
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's good that you were. I mean, you had known her phone number, but you had her probably in your contacts. But other people might not have had her phone number, so that's why they had to still use Facebook. But that's awesome.
Right, but the office sends out a roster. So, and of course, being a real estate agent, we can get to their phone number anyway, right? On MLS.
Well, it's just a reminder that it's phone, email, text, social media, Facebook message. It's all of the above, right? It's not just one.
Right.
I think we forget that sometimes. We get comfortable with our way of communicating, and we think everybody wants to communicate the same way that we want to communicate. But you never know what kind of responses you can get by just doing all the options. If you do all the options, then you have a better chance of finding what their preferred method of communication is, right? So good job. Way to go.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
What else? Tell me something good.
So I got something good, Gary. So we decided, actually it was thanks to my MAPS coach, we stopped our refi on our personal house and decided to put it on the market to go find a house that we actually like. Because our interest rate was close to 5%, and our property taxes here in unincorporated St. Pete, for maybe $100, $200 more a month, we could go find, instead of a 2-bedroom home, we can find a 3 or 4-bedroom house with a pool mixed with the equity that we're going to get. So I got the house on the market, 6 offers in 2 days, and now going and showing properties that we're going to actually start writing offers on. So
that's awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome. I mean, your buying power just went up dramatically with all the interest rates coming down below 3. So you can, your buying power is much stronger, and you can move up, and also you also don't have to do a lot of fix up on your house because there's so much demand for properties on the market right now. So you don't have to have the perfect house on the market for sellers that are thinking about, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And normally you'd want them to do it, but right now the market's so hot that they may not even have to do it, and it won't cost them as far
Exactly.
as, you know.
And
what I'm
use
saying?
this, everybody can use this story, right? So our roof is from 2006. No, I'm sorry, 2003. So it's an old roof. And so I
Right.
had a 4-point done, uploaded it to the MLS, and I said, 4-point is clean. They gave it 8 years of life left. And so all the offers were either at or close to asking price, because there was no doubt about having to replace the roof within 30 days after the purchase.
Awesome. That's great. So,
So
I mean, interest rates just from you're at 5 currently, and what do you get? Your financing probably is right around 3 right now. So you're
2.75.
wow. So it's cut in half just about. So you can keep the same payment and move up in house. It's just amazing. It's
Yeah.
what an incredible time we have right now. It's the best time for sellers to sell, and and sellers are still reluctant to put their houses on the market. They're doing it, but it's also the best time to buy from an affordability perspective, because interest rates are the lowest that they've been. It's kind of a exciting opportunity. And it's also a great, exciting opportunity to invest if you've ever thought about doing that in rental real estate. Buy real estate and rent it out, because cash flow is so positive with interest rates being so low that you'd have a positive cash flow on the properties that you're purchasing, depending on how much you put down. So it's a great time to accumulate real estate, truly, no question. But way to go! That's a brilliant. Your MAPS coach helped you with that. That just paid for your MAPS coaching for the whole year.
Oh yeah, he's more than paid for himself twice already this year, because believe me, that's one of my biggest expenses. So I hold that expense very accountable. And so I'll right now it's equivalent to, regardless of my transactions, it's 5 deals so far just from him this year. So it's just over $1 million in volume.
So it really isn't a cost then, is it?
No, it's an investment, absolutely. So to make sure that it's an investment and not a cost.
That's right. Exactly. That's the way to do it. What else? Tell me something good. Silence is golden. I know there's something good you got to share. If not something good, tell me what you've learned with all the Zoom meetings and all. Just share an aha or something that you've learned.
Well, I got something for the group here.
Okay.
My name's Aramis. I'm a new member at Gulfside. And
Welcome to the
I don't know,
family.
maybe it's, thank you for having me. Maybe it's just because I'm new, but I'm excited. I got access to the MLS yesterday. I almost threw a celebration party last night at the house.
Oh boy, that's great. Way to go. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's my first time dealing with real estate, so it was exciting yesterday being able to log into MLS. I was on it for about 2 hours just getting acquainted with the website.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. And there'll be more and more exciting days. There'll be more and more exciting days. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. What else? Anybody else? Tell me something good, or give me an aha that you've had.
Can I say something else?
Sure.
Something else?
Yeah.
So I know I see Michelle, you just unmuted you. I just wanted Michelle Tortorisi, she was a part of KW years ago with us on the Gary and Nikki team, and she's joined KW again. And she's going to be working with me, and we're going to work together, and I'm so excited. We've stayed true friends for the past however many years, Michelle. 18 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's good to have her back.
Welcome home. Like I
Thank
said on
you.
Facebook, welcome home. Great to see your pretty face.
Oh, thank you, Gary. It's so good to see you and hear your voice. And
I mean, once you're part of the family, you're never not a part of the family.
Right.
You may go different places, but you're still part of the family, right? No question about that. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to share that I met Gary and Nikki back in 1998. You guys were just brand new agents with RE/MAX. Remember, you were showing spec homes at Fairfield, where I was the sales office manager. And so to see the what you've done here with Keller Williams, and now that I'm back, and in the last 20 years that I've been gone, I'm just amazed at the the growth, the technology, the training. It's just really amazing. And I'm so happy to be back. Happy to be with Mimi. Happy to see you again. And I just want to thank you. And I wish everybody that's new the best of luck. And I hope I get to meet a lot of you.
Well, welcome back. Welcome home. It is evolved. There's no question about it. It's a different world that we live in. And even got more exciting this past year with everything going on. The main thing is it's like drinking from a fire hose. So don't get overwhelmed by it. It's like inch by inch, it's a cinch, right? And you got to keep your mind right and enjoy the journey of learning and growing without attachment to being overwhelmed. You know, stay away from overwhelm and focus on possibilities. And it's a contact sport. It's about talking to people, building relationships, and helping people solve their problems, even the ones that don't realize they have one. You know. But it's about coming from contribution and helping people, and you all know that, right? But the most important thing for anybody, the experienced veterans or somebody new just starting out or doing a different thing you did before, is patience. It takes time, but you also have to hold yourself accountable to do the things that you need to do on a daily basis to build what you want to build, right? And that's the game that we play. What else?
Well, Gary, as you know, Tampa had their best month ever, best July ever. So if they're not themselves, I'm going to brag on them.
Well, congratulations. That's right. It was an awesome month. It was fantastic. And the numbers bear it out. I mean, July was an astounding month for our market centers. And when we get to the numbers, you're going to see what the numbers are going to reveal in the marketplace too. It's pretty amazing what's going on out there. It's about us taking our unfair share right now. Okay. And of course, it's always about us taking our unfair share, right? That never changes. So good. That's great. I think the region had a great, every entity had a great month of July. So now it's about continuing it forward, right? We're on our way to economic recovery. And I think that the information that I have today is going to bear that out. More good news to share, right? So tell me something good. What else? Any other ahas?
Well,
Gary, I just want to.
Brian?
Yeah, speaking to what Michelle just said, I mean, I had my best July, right? My best month ever. I got number 23 last month, and I had number 28 the month before. So that's 2 months in a row. They were amazing months. And then I just got a contract executed just now. I'm actually submitting it now to my TC on a listing that I had. And the 36 days, and granted, it's like 97.3%, but the sellers are just very, very difficult on me and very time consuming. So I'm just thrilled beyond belief to have this under contract. I mean, I just was done with them. And then we had another listing that just was set to close next week, and they didn't meet loan commitment, and so my sellers are crushed. I was crushed. We're just going to get the execution signed, and last night I got a full price offer. So they'd already seen the house like the last anyway. So it's just unbelievable.
Well, it's an amazing. First of all, congratulations. What your activities that you performed when in the last couple of months have culminated in this, right? So your people that worked through the pandemic and people that stayed off the couch and got into activity a couple of months ago are reaping the rewards right now. So the main thing is just jump in and get active. So you're to be commended. Good job. I know you're on the phones. I know you're doing things on a consistent basis, and that's a great job. Being in the top 30 is a great accomplishment. So that's great. Good stuff. What else? Anybody else?
Hey, Gary, I just wanted to say I'm new here. I'm glad to be on board. I'm happy to be on board with you guys here. I think we share a hometown together. I'm heading up there next week. I'm gonna try to find some buyer prospects to escape and come down here.
You're from Pennsylvania? You're from
Scranton, yeah. Scranton area.
Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome to our family here, Steve. You know,
yeah,
that's
thanks.
great. That's
Thanks.
great.
It's great to be here.
We'll have to chat about some things that we might have in common up there.
I'll have to bring you some Old Forge pizza down.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's great. Good stuff. That's great. What else? Tell me something good. Well, welcome from Pennsylvania.
I had an aha this week. I took a Zoom training with Sandy Doherty, and she completely changed how I'm going to approach my buyer consultations. And I'm really grateful for her training class. And I'm grateful that you guys do so many training classes. It was really good.
Well, fantastic. That's great. That's what the calendar is there for, guys. You know, and it's there for you to take advantage of and to adopt at least 1 or 2 or 3 things that you can implement right away into your life and your business that will make it better. Does that make sense? Good stuff. What else? Anybody else? Any ahas, or tell me something good that you want to share?
Well, I'm new with Keller Williams Gulf Side, so I'm happy about that.
Well, welcome to the family. Welcome all the people that are new. Welcome to the family, and all the people that are have been with us for a while. You know, we love you and appreciate you, right? So that's awesome. And let's move forward with some materials, unless somebody else has something they want to share. Anybody want to share anything? Any issues that you're facing? Any dilemmas that we can brainstorm? That's what Mastermind's all about, right? Learning together, growing together, putting our heads together, solving challenges. Okay, let's move forward. You interested in finding out what about what success is about? So this is another Jim Rohn, my fallback. Love Jim Rohn. Being successful is a personal choice. Success is not a stereotype. Success is not an automobile. It's not a house. It's not a plan. It's not money in the bank. That's not success. Success is the continual unfolding of the design of our life and pulling it off. That's what success is. Being successful in whatever you want to do makes sense to you, for you, and in your family. Take on responsibilities or refuse them. It's all up to you. We've been given the power of choice. Every life form except human beings operates by instinct in the genetic code. It has no multiple choice. Only humans have multiple choice. In the winter, the goose flies south. Why? Because he's a goose. He couldn't fly west. If you said to the goose it'd be better to go west this year, he'd ignore that advice. You keep on flying south. Why? He has no alternative. He has no other way. He's only driven as all life forms are driven by instinct in the genetic code, except human beings. Now, why not human beings? Because we've been given the dignity of choice. We're not like a robot. We're not stuck like a tree using up all the nourishment and with nothing left, you die because you can't change locations. Not true. Humans can go north, south, east, west. Humans can change and do anything they want to do. We've been given the dignity. But here's what's interesting about all life forms except humans. Every life form except humans strives to the max of its potential. How tall will a tree grow? As tall as it possibly can. You've never heard of a tree growing half as high as it could. No, that's impossible. A tree grows as high as it can, drives down every root it can, provides every leaf it can, extends itself as far as it possibly can. Every life form extends to the max, except human beings. Now, why not human beings? Because we're not robots. We've been given the dignity of choice. Do it all or don't. Being part of or all of what you have the potential to be. You've got the choice. Do a little to make yourself comfortable and forget the rest, or do it all. There's nobody here to dictate you've got to do it all. That's nonsense. You've got to be rich because we live in a rich country. That's nonsense. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to do it all. You can do a little, do some more, take advice, but don't take orders. Take information, training, teaching, but don't take orders from anyone who tells you how you need to live and what you need to own and what you need to do. somebody says, well, you need to be successful. That's a personal choice, being successful. What we teach is the possibilities, and everybody chooses. Take a little, take a lot, do something, do nothing, or ignore the subject. Abraham Lincoln said, as I would not be a slave, so I would not be a master. Excellent philosophy. A guy says, hey, I'm soon cashing it in and I'm heading for the mountains. I'm going to live in a little cabin and live off the land and feed the squirrels. If he goes and does that, guess what? He's a smashing success. Why? He's doing what he designed to do and pulled it off. You can't say, no, that's not successful. That's the epitome of success. Giving a design to your life and pulling it off to make progress in a direction that satisfies you. If it doesn't satisfy you, make alternatives and change. If you get some better ideas, sure, you might follow someone's suggestions, ideas, but not orders. Design your life. Design your own life like you want it. Now, if you can take on some responsibilities, you got to consider those. Yes, you can ignore your responsibilities, but you won't feel good about that. Here's what the old prophet said. Some things that taste good now in the mouth turn bitter later in the belly. So you don't want to sacrifice. We all must suffer one of two pains. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. That's something you want to underline, I think, when you get your materials. We all must suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. What we suggest to everybody is to consider the disciplines, because disciplines weigh ounces, regrets weigh tons. That's a powerful statement. You don't want to substitute a discipline for a regret. In our opinion, that would be a poor choice. Now you can do it, but some things are portrayed us. The old prophet said, quote, what if you gain the whole world, but it costs you your soul, unquote. Would that be worth it? With a bit of intelligence, we say no, that doesn't seem worth it, even if you've got the whole world if you traded your soul. That experience would be so bitter and awful and so devastating, it wouldn't be worth it. What if you got some gain by greed instead of legitimate ambition? I'm telling you, it might taste good up front, but it's going to turn bitter in the belly. And a bit of that advice saves some people from devastation. Say, well, you're right. I'd better think twice about that. So we must confront all laws, spiritual laws, agricultural laws, basic laws, fundamental laws. We must confront all of those. But you still now can design your own life, a little or a lot. Go east, north, south. Any ahas? Anything speak to you from that article?
They're going to our potential. It's similar to what I'm hearing in Grant Cardone's 10X rule, where he's saying make success an ethical trait, where it has to be within us, to be successful, right, and go to our full potential.
Exactly. Good stuff.
Discipline weighs ounces.
Say that again, Brian.
Discipline weighs ounces. Regrets weighs tons.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something to stew on there.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. Good article.
Yeah, it is powerful.
Yeah.
But you get to make choices. We all get to make choices.
That's true.
And it's the accumulation of our choices that have led us to where we are today. And it's the accumulation of your choices from here forward that's going to lead you to where you're going, wherever that may be. Hopefully it's in line with what your dreams are.
Yeah. Damn,
that's the game that we, right, and that's the game that we play, on a daily basis. But some of us feel guilty over what we think we should be doing because other people are doing it. My input to you is don't shit all over yourself. Make a decision. We give a lot of suggestions, and there's a lot of models in Keller Williams, and some people say that Keller Williams, is trying to make you something that you don't want to be. I mean, what if I don't want to be mega agent. Well, I don't know why people feel that way, because it's their choice. We want to train people for as big as they want to become. So we have to provide as good of training as we can possibly provide. Does that make sense? But it's always your choice. You're the CEO of your own businesses. You own your businesses, and our job is to try to help you achieve whatever levels that you aspire to achieve, but it's always your choice. So don't beat yourself up by comparing yourself to other people. That's always a bad thing. Learn from other people and find out what they do well that you think you can adapt based on what you want, and do that. Okay. But don't think you're being ordered to do anything. It's always your choice. And don't beat yourself up for not doing it. If it's something that you decide to do, that's a great thing. And the beauty of the next moment, the beauty of tomorrow, is it's a new beginning. It's a new beginning. So empower yourself by making a decision and making a choice. If it's something that you see somebody else doing well and you don't want to do it, just say, I choose not to do that. Here's how I'm going to build my business. And that's okay. Would you agree?
Yeah, I like that you get to define your own success. I thought that part was great, because
Awesome.
I am that person, and that's the reason why I chose Gulfside, because it was more family oriented. It wasn't so shark driven is the term that I like to use.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. It's all about learning and growth and becoming the best version of ourselves. And you get to decide what the best version of yourself will look like.
Absolutely.
That makes sense? Awesome. What else? Any other ahas from this? Okay, let's move on to the next article. You can have more if you become more. Is anybody interested in hearing about that? Okay, you're going to hear about it anyway. Sorry. Here's the greatest challenge of life. You can have more than you've got. You can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are. I found that income seldom will exceed your own personal development. Once in a while, income takes a lucky jump, but unless you grow out to where it is, it'll go back to where you are. Somebody once said, if you took all the money in the world and divided it equally among everyone, it'd soon be back in the same pockets. However, you can have more because you can become more. You see, here's how the other side of the coin reads. Unless you change how you are, you'll always have what you've got. The major thing that makes the difference is what you do. It's the human effort that counts. In order to have more, you need to become more. The guy says, if I had a good job, I'd really pour it on, but I have this lousy job, so I just goof off. If that's your philosophy, you're destined to stay there. Some people say, if I had a lot of money, I'd be really generous, but I don't have much, so I'm not generous. See, you've got to change that philosophy, or you'll never have lots of money. Unless you change, it won't change. Amazingly, however, when we throw out our blame list and start becoming more ourselves, the difference is everything else will begin to change around us. Any thoughts? Any ahas? You want to say something, Bryant? That looked like you wanted to say something.
Oh, just a lot of room for growth. You put your mind to it, you got a lot of room for growth. If you want to accept it, you got to be willing to change. I mean, I fight it all the time. That shows.
Well,
but you just keep surrounding yourself keep putting good people around you. Sooner or later, I know you're not supposed to compare, but it'll light a fire under your derriere. Okay.
Right.
It might be a smoldering one right now, but fires are being lit for me.
Okay.
And a lot of it is, just confronting my own crap. That I tend to put things up for, and it's been pointed out many times. I put things in front of me as a wall when it shouldn't be a wall. It should just be a little piece of a learning thing and nothing to really dwell on, but I'll sit and dwell on it for, you know, whatever reason, until all of a sudden I'll hear it come from a different person, you know, like you or Sandy or Anna,
Right.
you know, and then all of a sudden, bing, and I'm like, you know, what the hell, you know, get off your dead ass.
Well, don't be so harsh on yourself. Be grateful that you heard the input. You know, it's about less being hard on yourself and more about being thankful for where you got the input from, you know, and growing from there. I mean, we're all that we got, right? So don't be so hard on yourself, okay? But
well, you got to be real. You can't sit there and, you know, I mean, like they say in bold, you know, you got to give yourself some grace. Okay, I get that. You got to give yourself some grace. You know, but then you got to get back to the accountability. And if you avoid being accountable, well, it'll bite you in the butt.
Well, what'll happen is you'll fall off track as far as what hitting your goals are. Because,
yeah,
you know,
and then it becomes a challenge to get back on track because you think you should be in a certain spot, and then you get confronted with your, well, you know, if you need to get in there and participate. You know, and if you participate, then things become a lot easier that are at you know, let's say at a given moment appears to be a mountain. And then, but you participate a little bit and you realize that mountain is just a piece of sand that you just keep walking, you keep doing, you don't worry about it. You know?
There's the mountains are opportunities for growth. They're blessings in disguise. And the faster you see them from that perspective, the faster you'll have the right mindset and not lose time over grieving over the mountain.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying? We have a tendency to you know, be upset when there's challenges that come in front of us instead of being grateful for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that gratitude will help you to seek help faster. Follow what I'm saying? Rather than get lost in grieving that the problem why is this happening to me? You know, go to why is this happening for me faster than why is this happening to me? Because
Well,
why is this happening for me is going to lead you to ask questions and look for solutions instead of making the problem bigger and bigger and bigger. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. It's that part of actually reaching out and asking.
Right.
Okay, normally I like to, you know, just kind of like stay in stealth mode. Well, you know, you all have talked about being in stealth mode.
Well,
You be in stealth mode, well, you're not going to do business.
well, hiding is not going to help you. Is going to stunt your growth.
Yeah.
Hiding is going to cause you to learn slower, right? So that's not a good strategy if you want to learn and grow, right? I mean, it's one thing to, you know, and this is really tough for people that have a lot of experience because, you know, they think that the impression of them is that they know everything. And if they're exposed at not knowing everything, I'm not going to ask for help because it'll show me how I don't know everything. And it's embarrassing for somebody in my experience not to know it. Well, that's ridiculous. You know, we all learn and grow together, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's part of shooting all over yourself. I should know this. I should know this. So I'm not going to ask for help because I'm going to embarrass myself and expose myself for how much I don't know. And that's not a fact. That means I'm more concerned about my pride and ego than I am about learning and growing.
That ego is a brutal little jerk.
I understand. We're all in the same boat.
I mean, well, you have to have
we're the ones that are talking, but a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah, but you got to have some ego. I mean, you got to be able to, you know, when you go walking up the steps, you know, you got to have your game on. You got to have the ego going in your not, you know, you have to have a good bit of ego. Okay.
Well, you have to believe in yourself, and that's two different areas. You know, you always want to be humble but confident when you're in the public and you're talking to buyers and sellers.
Right.
Okay?
That's what I meant.
But when you're among our friends and our family here, there's no need to impress anybody. You know, I mean, it's great to, you know, I got this done, I got this done, I got this done, I'm
Right.
doing really good. That's fantastic. But Mastermind's about sharing our warts and learning from our mistakes. You celebrate the good things, but learn from things that we need to grow from. Does that make sense? So I understand what you're saying, but but that's kind of the philosophy that we want to adapt to help us grow faster. If we're in a learning and a growth environment, then we have to be willing to share our mistakes as well as our successes. Like I always say, Gary Keller had us quoted we were in the mastermind group for writing MREA because we were doing everything that you shouldn't be doing. We were the remedial group of the mistakes that we made, right? Yeah. So, and that, I say it jokingly, but it's true. And one of the things that will endear you to other people is by being transparent. It'll endear you to fellow agents. It'll also endear you to the consumer. Yeah. In certain situations. You don't want to tell them about every mistake you ever made, but you want to share mistakes that other people have made also. That led to a bad experience selling their house. Okay? People learn from mistakes as well as they learn from successes. And I think we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. I think we fail forward. Okay? We can't be afraid to look bad, especially with each other, right?
Right.
Good stuff. I appreciate you participating. What else? Anybody else get anything from this?
I wanted to share something. My meditation this morning was about this exactly. And it's like the universe is talking to me, not just me, everybody. I'm hearing it, Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I got from that I'd like to share is that the success is not a destination, it's the journey.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a big
aha.
Right.
So, do we ever arrive?
Not really. You keep growing.
That's right. If we impose an end, then what are we going to do after we accomplish it? Where do we go after that? Right? So the journey is about becoming the best we can be, the best version of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. It's good to have short-term goals, monthly, daily, weekly, monthly, annually. It's good to have a big picture of where we want to be. But let me share something with you. Living in a world of weekly and monthly and annual goals, our vision was never as big as it's become. Gary Keller's vision is never as big as it's become. Was never, well, his first vision when we joined the company was 50,000 agents, 5,000 agent millionaires, and 500 offices. Where are we at now?
Even more than that.
We're at 3 times that as far as number of agents, right? So the main thing is it's about doing the activities on a daily basis that you believe are going to build to where your passions are and what your dream is for your life. And then do your best to stay on task for those things and learn and grow. And eventually it could grow bigger than what you can even imagine right now. Does that make sense? Or am I talking gibberish?
No. It makes total sense.
Anybody else? Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Brian. Okay, let's continue. Thanks, Tamara. Couldn't do this without you, Tamara. Okay, want some good news? Homes are more affordable right now than they've been in years. It's interesting. If you look at that, low mortgage rates are actually making homes more affordable, even as prices rise. That's a powerful statement, right? You would think that with home prices appreciating, buying power would be minimal, right? But the prices are going up, affordability should be coming down, right? If prices are going up, they should be less affordable. But actually with interest rates dropping the way they have, even though prices have gone up, home prices are more affordable, while home prices have risen for 97 consecutive months. July's record low mortgage rates have made purchasing the average priced home the most affordable it's been since 2016. let's scroll to the next page. In fact, the buying power is now up 10% year over year, meaning the average home buyer can afford nearly $32,000 more home than they could at the same time last year, while keeping their monthly payment the same. Okay, that's amazing. Okay, by waiting a little longer, they can now afford 10% more home than they could have a year ago, while keeping their mortgage monthly payment unchanged. So just a question for you guys that have been at Mastermind before. If their buying power went up by 10%, how much have the interest rates dropped year over year? According to the shift book, every time the mortgage rates increase by 1%, your buying power drops by 10%. So if our buying power got 10% stronger, that means interest rates dropped 1% year over year. So last year they were around 4 at this time. Right now they're at 3. Our buying power became 10% more. We can qualify for 10% more of a mortgage based on just the interest rates dropping 1 point. So with mortgage rates hitting all-time lows 8 times this year, 8 times mortgage rates hit all-time lows. It's now less expensive to borrow money, making homes significantly more affordable over the lifetime of your loan. Pretty good news, right? In July, okay, housing, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate made history by moving below 3%. That drop in the mortgage rate from 3.23% in May to 2.98% in July increased house buying power by nearly $15,000. And you can see on this map, the last time housing was this affordable state by state. And in Florida, it's 2017. But it's interesting. It says in 6 states, Arkansas, Hawaii, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, and West Virginia, homes haven't been this affordable in more than 25 years. Wow. That's pretty mind-boggling, right? So the bottom line, if you're thinking about making a move, now's a great time to take advantage of the affordability that comes with such low mortgages. Whether you're thinking of purchasing your first home or moving into a new home and securing a significantly lower mortgage rate than you may have on your current house, Anna, right? This is all for you. You just did what you're just doing. Let's connect today to determine your next steps in the process. The reason I love this KCM blog, and I share it with you every month, because it's written from your perspective, providing information to potential buyers and sellers and encouraging them to contact you. It costs $20 a month to subscribe. I think it's a good return on investment for the information you get on a daily basis. You can share it in social media. You can customize it to your own propaganda, and it looks like it's coming directly from you. So I encourage you to invite you to look into that. A lot of agents are doing that already. A lot of it, you'll see a lot of these posts that people are using. Say, well, good. I guess a lot of people are starting to use this KCM blog because it's great. I mean, we had a buyer specialist on our team several years ago that just shared 2 or 3 articles a week on their Facebook page and social media. They made over $100 grand their first year as a buyer specialist on our team. And now he's an independent agent. Next page. I think a lot of people have shared this already. Just stew on this for a little bit. Mortgage rates by decade based on a $300,000 mortgage. By decades, those were the interest rates that were average, the average interest rates and the monthly payments on a $300,000 mortgage. $1980s.
They were brutal.
Look at that. Almost 3 times more expensive in the 1980s for a $300,000 mortgage than right now. 1990s, almost twice as expensive. We've had basically, I mean, even in the 2000s, it was twice, the interest rates were almost twice as high. The cost was a third more. If interest rates went up to 6% right now, then people would be freaking out. What do you think?
Yeah, they would.
So again, some highlights. Scroll a little further down. Tamara, thank you. It helps to see in dollars and cents the money you can save while purchasing a home while mortgage rates are low. Today's low rates mean it's less expensive to borrow money, so the savings over the life of your loan is significant. And again, the article is offering them to connect with you as their real estate advisor, as their real estate trusted advisor. Let's connect to determine the best way to position your family for a financially savvy move in today's market. This is why you see so much construction going on out there, you know, because the money is basically free. The money's leveraged. So it's a great opportunity to accumulate real estate. And that's why you see so many investors out there looking to buy real estate. Money's cheap. That helps us. Okay, next page. Experts weigh in on the remarkable strength of the housing market. I told you I was going to bring you good news, didn't I? So I like the first paragraph. Some challenges. Let's look at them. Once in a lifetime pandemic, a financial crisis, leaving millions still employed, an upcoming presidential election. Okay, that's enough to depress you, right? But even with all that uncertainty, the residential real estate market continues to show great resilience. We are blessed that we are in real estate. There's a lot of people, God forbid, that are suffering right now. Travel industry, the entertainment industry. So we're very, very blessed. We have a windows of opportunities, and we can help those people. So scroll down a little further, Tamara. These are what experts are saying, okay? Existing home sales are still down year over year by 11.3%. But as crazy as this might sound, we have a shot at getting a positive year over year growth. We may see an existing home sales print of 5.5 million in 2020. Matthew Speakman, in a remarkable show of resilience, the housing market has stared the pandemic right in the eye and hasn't blinked. Like we talked about a few months ago, this real estate is going to help lead the economy out in recovery. In a remarkable show of resilience, okay, we saw that. Next, the housing market across the United States pulled something of a higher wire act in the second quarter, surging forward despite the encroaching economic headwinds resulting from the coronavirus. Okay. The residential real estate market is staging an amazing rebound. Scroll a little further. Pandemic still hasn't stopped consistent home price growth. Recent home purchase measures have continued to show remarkable strength. Moving forward. Bottom line, the experts seem to agree that residential real estate is doing remarkably well. If you're thinking of jumping into the housing market, whether buying or selling, this may be the perfect time. I love KCM blog. It's always a good time to buy and it's always a good time to sell. And they explain the reasons why. Okay, next. So any ahas, guys, so far? Any thoughts?
So Gary, is it really, when all boils down to it, the interest rates that have been driving this strong housing market when during this COVID thing, and really just the interest rates?
I think that's the major part of it. I also think a lot of people that were thinking about buying during the pandemic didn't. I think a lot of people that were thinking about selling during the pandemic didn't because they were afraid. So I think there's just some pent up demand that caused so much excitement in July, and we'll see how far that goes month over month. We'll see what happens in August in a few weeks. In a few weeks, yeah. but it seems to be continuing to moving strong. So the interest rates are certainly, I think, the major driver of it. I also think that during the pandemic, people got to understand how much they like or not like their houses because they've had to spend so much time there, right? So they realized, okay, I think I want a little bit more. Plus, they've also been able to save more money. I mean, you haven't been able to go out to eat. You haven't been able to do things that you would normally do so hopefully a lot of people have been able to save some more money than they normally would have. And if they were thinking of buying, they may have got to that point where they have enough money to do that now. And lower interest rates just means they qualify for more house. So that everything is very helpful in that direction.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Any other thoughts on the
A quick
information so
question.
far?
Gary, what do you think about, I was talking with another agent the other day, and we were talking about, are we stealing buyers from the future?
Some people think that. And that may turn out to be partially correct. Demand is strong because interest rates are great. If interest rates go up or something happens to change the economy, it could slow down. I mean, what could happen? Somehow the GDP drops because of the pandemic continues again, and somehow, or something happens in the economy that's unforeseen, or with businesses. I think buyers are out there taking advantage of what they can right now, because I think most buyers believe that interest rates can't really go that much lower. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm an optimist, and I'm not a pessimist. Okay. I mean, I look for things that might cause a slowdown, but I always try to be prepared for what is to come. And I think that never afraid of anything, because we've survived too many markets and too many shifts not to. And there's some truths that remain the same. All the market data tells us is how to prepare a buyer client or a seller client to act in the current market. It also tells us as agents how to act in the current market. Okay. I think we always want to look for inventory. We always have to be strong at finding inventory. Like right now, the big issue is finding inventory for buyers, right? And I've talked about this for 3 years. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we can't just do the normal things to find inventory for buyers. We've gotten to the point now with the supply of inventory being so low that we have to go outside of what we normally have done. Like when you're working with a buyer waiting for a new house to hit the market, you're just in the middle of the frenzy. So yeah, I mean, that's one option, but what are you doing to help that buyer find properties that no one else knows about? Do you have a strategy to hunt for properties that no one else knows about? Do you have a strategy to hunt for listing possibilities that you might have limited competition? You want to find sellers where you have limited competition that fewer people are going after. And you also want to find listing possibilities for your buyer that they won't have to compete and have to pay top dollar or thousands over the list price. So how do you do that? Anybody that's been on Mastermind before that heard this speech before, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So why don't you share the ideas so I don't have to again? So what's one thing you can do to find a listing that no one else might know about?
You can go back to old expireds and call them, and maybe even old FSBOs. If you got a buyer that wants to be in a certain area, go back to the MLS a couple of years ago and see who never sold back then and give them a call. That's one way to go about it.
Exactly. Thanks, Donna. That's, don't just search active listings. Don't just search
a neighborhood that your buyer client wants to be in.
Yep.
I did that recently and got a call. It didn't work out for either party, but it still created enough interest.
Yeah. So expireds, search with the same criteria. Search for active listings, search expireds and withdrawals for your buyers. Circle prospect neighborhoods that they want to be in. Okay. What else? Any other ideas?
Circle prospect your success stories. So if you recently sold a house or closed on a deal, you could
well,
call that neighborhood.
Exactly. That's a way to get somebody to raise their hand possibly that no one else might know about. It's an expired listing and it generally comes up as an expired. A lot of other agents are working that. But if you circle prospect around your success stories, because see, sellers buy image, buyers buy houses. So sellers respond to the image of success. Buyers respond to just house advertisements. Does that make sense? So when you're marketing, that's what you want to shoot for, whatever you're shooting for, right? Right now we have more buyers than sellers. So another way to maybe get sellers to raise their hand is to advertise your buyer's needs. We have buyers in abundance. So why not advertise what your buyer's looking for on social media, and maybe a seller that you know or in your network might raise their hand and say, hey, I know somebody that has a house just like that, or I'm interested in selling my house right now. Also new construction. Marie Polo and her group, they're aware of and have relationships with all the builders around. When you have a buyer in a certain price range, if it's in a builder price range, probably what, 250 and up, 300 and up, call them and see what they know of that's available inventory wise or new construction wise. And that might be a way to, because buyers, you're either with inventory home, it's either sold or available. There's usually not multiple offers, right? And taking them to new construction, they may decide to build. They don't need to get in right away. But those are ways that you can help a buyer not have to experience the stress that you guys are going through and they're going through with limited inventory. Does that make sense? And imagine if you shared what you do in a buyer consultation above and beyond what most other agents do. Sharing with them that this market is a competitive market. There's a multiple offers and people are bidding up. We had one that went 16,000 above list price, right? I'm sure you all have the same stories, okay? But the thing is you share that information with buyers and you say, well, here's what we do. Here's the 5 steps that we take to try to limit you being in that position. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to still be in that position because we don't know what you're going to fall in love with, okay? Because we do what every agent other does and plus this. What buyer is not in their right mind is not going to agree to commit to work with you exclusively in a buyer broker agreement if you're willing to do those things. Does that make sense? Okay, good.
Hey, Gary.
Yes.
Just wanted to go back to what Anna's question was about stealing buyers from the future, because you can help out with remembering how it went down back, I think in 2007 or 2008, when Obama gave the $8,000 for first-time home buyers. He gave them $8,000, and so everybody then was thinking that we were stealing buyers from the future. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think it really caused that we were stealing buyers from the future. We might have had a little bit of a slowdown from it, but it didn't have a huge impact, not like short sales and foreclosures have an impact on the market.
Right. I think that affordability is a big thing. Back then, things just got crazy because all you needed to do was fog a mirror to qualify for a house. I mean, now the standards are a little bit stronger. So I think it's robust. I think people want to buy. I think people want to invest. The problem is as long as interest rates are low and even if prices continue to rise, I think there'll be a buyer for the product, even if it's somebody that's already bought a house and wants to start buying investment properties. Does that make sense? Yep. So I don't know that. I think the thing that really killed us was all the people that didn't have equity in their homes and the short sales and the foreclosures, like you said. That's what really impacted it. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. And I think we're in a much better position now than we were back then, simply because most people have equity in their homes. We're going to get some data in a little bit that I think 42% of people own their houses free and clear right now, don't even have mortgages. Okay. And I think, I forget the exact number, but it's over 50% have at least, have an average of 177,000 in equity in their properties. So that much equity is not going to cost, even though some people are in forbearance and some people aren't working, and we feel that's tough situation. There might be some foreclosures, but it's not going to increase to the levels that it did back then and cause problems. Does that make sense? Any other thoughts, anybody? Okay, let's get back to the next article. The beginning of an economic recovery. A recent Wall Street survey, well, let's look at the graph. That tells the whole story. Here's what the experts are predicting in gross domestic product for the third quarter. We had one of the worst second quarters in our history, but now they're predicting that, it's going to be very strong, 25%, 25%. Okay, next page. Overwhelmingly, economists are projecting GDP growth in the third quarter of 2020, with 5 of the 9 experts indicating over 20% growth. Indeed, the worst ever GDP reading could be followed by the best ever growth in the third quarter. So that's pent up demand from people being locked in their houses. As we look forward, we can expect consumer spending to improve as well. According to Opportunity Insights, as of August 1st, consumer spending was down just 7.8% as compared to January 1st this year. Again, bottom line, an economic recovery is beginning to happen throughout the country. While there are still questions that need to be answered about the road ahead, we can expect to see this improvement this quarter. Good news. Okay, next page. Sellers are returning to the housing market, and they are. They're just, there's just not enough of them yet. I mean, less people are afraid. After 5 months, sellers are back in the housing market. While encouraging, the improvement to new listings is only the first step in the long road to solving the low inventory issues keeping many buyers at bay. Okay, so a little bit further. Interesting. Total housing inventory at the end of June totaled 1.57 million units, up 1.3% from May, but still down 18.2% from a year ago. Now that's national numbers. Remember those. Remember that number when we get to our numbers locally. All right. So inventory is down 18.2% from last year nationally. Unsold inventory sits at a 4-month supply, down from 4.8 months. So we all know what supply and demand is, right? New agents, a 0 to 5 month supply is a seller's market. A 5 to 7 month supply, according to NAR, is a balanced or normal market. 7-month or greater supply is a buyer's market. And just logically, the more supply there is, the more buyers' options that they have, the better it is for buyers because they have more choices, and worse it is for sellers because they have to compete more for those buyers. When there's a low supply, buyers have less choices and sellers are in the driver's seat, which is what we're in right now. But what's the month supply for us? It's 4 a month nationally. We're a much stronger seller's market right now than it is national. Okay, and we'll get to those numbers shortly. Next page. Thanks, Tamara. Houses are selling faster than they're coming to the market. Yeah, that's true. So why is this good for sellers? Scroll a little bit further down. And you all know this. A good time to enter the housing market is when competition in your area is low. Is it low right now? Yes, it's very low, meaning there's fewer sellers than interested buyers. You don't want to wait for all the other homeowners to list their houses before you do. And we talked about that a couple months ago. We talked about trying to ease the concerns about the risk that they had by doing things above and beyond to assure them and try to create a safe environment. And we've been doing those things. Some people still haven't put their houses on the market. But the main thing is for sellers, if they can get ahead of the market, they can keep reaping the rewards of what's going on right now. 6 months from now, it may not be the same situation. I mean, we might be more of a balanced market. It might not be as strong of a seller's market. Right now, in my opinion, it's the best time in history for a seller to sell their house. Been doing this for 33 years. I've never seen numbers like this. And it's the best time for a buyer to buy a house in history, not because of availability, but because of affordability. Because interest rates are the lowest they've been in history. So we're at this point that we've never been at before, where it's the best of both worlds. Best time for sellers to sell, and it's the best time for buyers to buy. The issue is finding buyers a product that they like, because there's less choices. And that's why our job, I believe, is to help them find product that not everybody knows about. And that's where the extra work comes in. But in service of a buyer, you can get more listing opportunities. In marketing buyers' needs, you might get more listing opportunities. So why is it good for buyers? Okay, it's a good because interest rates are so low. But it's also good for buyers because they're predicting that more and more inventory will come on the market. So bottom line, while we still have a long way to go to catch up to current demand, inventory slowly returning to the market. If you're thinking of moving this year, let's connect today. Again, close for the appointment. Good article. The next article, the latest unemployment report, slow and steady improvement. Okay, let's look at the graph. That tells the whole story. We see where unemployment was before the pandemic hit, right? Then all of a sudden, everything went to hell in a handbasket. Well, what's happening? And these, by the way, are millions of jobs. Like, I mean, I think the first drop was like I don't know, I think it was 5 million. But last month, it revealed that 1.8 million jobs were added, and the unemployment rate fell to 10.2%. If we look at the next page, housing market has continued to show tremendous resilience during the pandemic. Commenting on the labor report, Robert Dietz says housing continues to rebound in another positive labor market report. Home builder and remodeler job gains of 24K for July. Residential construction employment down just 56.4K compared to a year ago. Total residential construction employment at 2.85 million. So we should remain cautious in our optimism, as the recovery is ultimately tied to our future success in mitigating the ongoing health crisis. However, the pace of job growth slowed in July, but the gains over the past 3 months represent an impressive rebound during ongoing economic challenges brought forth by the pandemic. Okay. So imagine if this pandemic never happened, and the number of jobs that were lost weren't lost. The first 3 months of the year were the best 3 months that we've had in our career. We were tracking for the best year ever. And we can still catch up. Some of July was pent up demand, but we can still catch up and have a really kick butt second half of the year. Okay. It's just about how we behave and what level of optimism that we present to our buyers and sellers. That's why it's so important for you guys to keep your minds right and focus on the positives and focus on how can we, and not listen to the news and all the hate and crap that's going on in this world. Stay away from that stuff. Not healthy. Don't get into debates on social media or arguments. It's not worth it. Truly. Truly isn't. Find buyers and sellers and help them. Find sellers that no one knows about. Do things a little differently than you've done them. If you're new agents and you don't know what, that might be a great thing, because the old way is not necessarily the only way. You know, it's basics plus. Okay, anybody? Any comments, any thoughts, any ahas? Okay, I want to get to the data. There's a couple of articles on foreclosures and forbearance. Why foreclosures won't crush the housing market next year. Okay, that's great news, because I hear some people saying that we're going to get, doom and gloom. Foreclosures are coming back. Everybody are going to need to get into the foreclosure business again. That's crap. Don't get distracted. Stay focused. You may have certain clients that need help. Our job is to really educate them on the opportunities they have to get mortgage help. Okay, because they're out there, and a lot of consumers don't know about those. But let's look at some numbers at the graph. Scroll down a little bit further. There we go. Thank you, Tim. The number of mortgages in active forbearance is leveling off. okay? So you see week by week where they were during the pandemic. So they're dropping. The next page. Black Knight Inc. also notes that of the original 4,208 families that granted forbearance, only 2,588 of these homeowners got an extension. So in other words, many homeowners have once again started to pay their mortgages, paid off their homes, never went delinquent on their payments in the first place. They may have applied for forbearance out of precaution, but never fully acted on it. Okay, good news. Next, scroll all the way down. Not all the way down, sorry. My fault. I want them to see these numbers on page 17. And here we go. Those are the numbers I was talking about. The housing market and homeowners, therefore, are in a much better position than many may think. Much has to do with the fact that there's more equity. 42% of homes are owned free and clear. That's mind-boggling. They're not tied to a mortgage. The remaining 58%, the average owner has $177,000 in equity. The United States faces a possible foreclosure surge over the coming months that could more than double the number of households threatened with eviction for not paying their mortgages. Scroll down a little further, but it's not going to rock the housing market. Number may sound massive, but it's actually much smaller than it seems at the first glance. Today's actual quarterly active foreclosure number is 74,860. That's over 7.5 times lower than the number of foreclosures the country saw at the peak of the housing crash. Scroll down a little further. Back in 2009, and look at the number of consumers with new foreclosures on that graph. Where are we now compared to where we were in 2009? Not even close, right? So again, you can read the rest of this article and also the next one. The next one, the graph shows the numbers are even dropping further because it has 2 more weeks of information. So the number of forbearance is decreasing. Okay, we ready for some data? REO properties, which are foreclosure properties. REO is real estate owned or bank owned or foreclosures that are active on the market. 22 active on the market. There were only 25 in June. Back in 2009, 10, 11, 12, they were in Pinellas County, they were in the hundreds, 200s, 300s. Hillsborough County, they were in the 900s. Last month, 20 sold. The previous month, 49 sold. The circle around the 1 is the list to sales price ratio. So those 20 that sold at an average of 100% of list price. In other words, full price. Last month, there was more actually that sold than were active. So the absorption rate went from 196% in June down to 91% absorption rate. And that's a high number, guys. It went from a half month supply in June down to up to a 1.1 month supply in July, which is a very, what kind of market? Strong seller's market, right? Exactly. Next page. Short sales, inventory dropped there too from 15 to 11. Sales went up from 2 to 8. It took 218 days to get from contract to closing. That's a pretty high number compared to what we've been seeing lately. Normally it's about 120 days. But that means those 8 buyers waited anywhere from, 6 months or so for an answer from the bank as far as whether the price that the seller accepted was the same price the bank would accept. In a short sale, the bank gets to make that decision because the mortgage is worth more than the house in those situations. Absorption rate went from 13.3 up to 72.7, a 1.4 month supply for Pinellas County short sales. So it's really non-existent. Might that come up a little bit? Even if it comes up a little bit, it's not going to be earth-shattering, right? Next page. Here we go, non-distressed. This is where most of us live and breathe, right? So right now there's 3,203 active listings for non-distressed properties. In June, there was 3,336. So active inventory dropped by 133 listings or 4% from June to July. July last year, inventory was at 4,608. So that's 1,405 less listings right now than there were last year at this time, or a 30.5% drop. What was the drop in inventory nationally? You remember that number? It was 18.2%, right? Nationally? Well, in Pinellas County, inventory is 30.5% less now than it was last year. Meanwhile, with 1,405 less listings than last year, sales went up by 247 sales. Sales went up by 8.8% over last year, from 2,091 up to 2,338. So what does that mean when inventory is shrinking and sales are increasing? When inventory is getting smaller and sales are increasing, what does that mean?
Prices go up.
Well, yeah, but what kind of market but what kind of market causes prices to go up?
Sellers.
Right. So when that happens, it means the seller's market is getting stronger. Okay. So the seller's market is stronger this year than it was last year at this time. And the numbers bear that out. If you scroll down a little further, you can see last year the absorption rate was 45.4%. This year it's 73%. Higher percentage selling. Last year the month supply was 2.2 months. Right now it's a 1.4 month supply of inventory for non-distressed properties. And what did we say that a month supply nationally was?
4 months.
4. 1.4 is a lot stronger of a seller's market than 4. And 30.5% less inventory is a lot more than 18% less. Okay? Thus my strategy. If you want agents to work for you, go get inventory. Every agent in town will be calling you. Or would you rather be the one calling every listing agent in town? Because you're begging them to sell it to your buyer because they've got 7 other buyers. You hear me? Do you hear me? You can nod.
Good stuff, Gary. Good stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Next page. I just started doing this last month because I want to see how many pendings there actually are. So it's very interesting to me that there's almost as many pendings in Pinellas County as there are actives. There's 3,238 total actives as of August 14th when I did this search. And there's 3,087 pendings. Properties are flying off the market as soon as they're listed. That's why it's the best time in history for a seller to list their house. Plain and simple. Now you're going to see the other 2 counties, pendings are far outnumbering the amount of actives. In Pinellas is the only county of the 3 that we studied where pendings are actually a little less than actives. Okay. Next page. Pasco County. 18 REOs active, 37 sold. So again, here we go. More sold than were active. Well, they went under contract, right? Or they were under contract and they closed. All right. So the absorption rate went from 188% in June up to 205.5%. If you'll scroll down a little bit further. Thanks, Sam. So the month supply of inventory actually stayed. You can't get much lower than a half month supply. I guess we could get to a 1 week supply, but half a month supply of inventory for REOs in Pasco. Next page. Short sales in Pasco. 8 active, 2 sold. Took 116 days to get from contract to closing. That's a 25% absorption rate or a 4 month supply of inventory. Again, those numbers are so small, at some point, it might not even be worth tracking them anymore. Here's the numbers that I want you to see. These are the most important numbers. In Pasco County, the active listings, 1,473. Pasco County dropped by 108 listings from June to July, or 6.8%. Year over year, it dropped 44.3%. 1,170 less listings in Pasco right now than there was last year in July. But with 1,170 less listings, there were 170 more sales in Pasco. I think some of that's pent up demand because of sales that didn't happen in March and April, in May, okay? We'll see how things bear out, whether things get more normalized in August. But sales went up from 1,281 to 1,451. So sales went up by 13.3%. Inventory dropped by 44.3, which means the seller's market got much stronger year over year. And let's scroll down a little further and see what those numbers are. Again, a 48.5% absorption rate up last year to a 98.5% absorption rate last month. A 2.1 month supply last year, now only a 1 month supply of inventory. So what the month supply of inventory means is not how long it would take for a house to sell. What it means is if no new houses on the market, no new houses come on the market, how long would it take for the inventory to be completely depleted? Okay, gone. So the way it is right now, if no new listings came on the market in Pasco County, it would only take 1 month for all the properties to be absorbed. Great market for sellers and a great market for buyers at the same time because of affordability. Now here we go. Let's look at the next page. Look at the pendings compared to the actives in Pasco County. Just flying off the market, man. And that just means that active inventory isn't keeping up with demand that buyers have. So this is the, I mean, we've said before that in sellers markets, all you need to do is get a sign in the yard, and you're gonna get paid in 30 to 60 days. That's almost factual. I mean, it's pretty much factual right now. And it means that it may not be prudent to have sellers do repairs on properties with no competition, taking weeks and months to do repairs on properties to get it to be pristine. It'll help, but it could cost them time. You follow what I'm saying? It may not be necessary. They may not have to spend all that money. They may not, because they might get the money anyway because there's so much demand.
Gary, we work out in Pasco County, and we're seeing offers are 15, 20, 25,000 over list price.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. Yeah. Now the thing is when you're in that environment and you have a seller that's in that situation that's very exciting for sellers, but it's also cumbersome. You got to protect them. If you're a seller's agent, you have to protect them. You want to make sure that all the contingencies are shored up, as many as you can. If a buyer agrees to pay above list price, and what happens if it doesn't appraise? I mean, are they willing to come up with the cash difference between appraisal value and sales price? Are they willing to waive their mortgage contingency? Are they willing to waive their home inspection contingency? Can we how far can we shorten up those contingencies so the seller is not left hanging for a week or two, for months, a month, or follow what I'm saying? So we want to protect our sellers and put them in the best light. Next page. Hillsborough. 43 active. That's a far cry from the 900s, 7, 8, 9 years ago. Amazing. Actually, more than that now. Time flies. I can't believe 2007 is 13 years ago. 49 sold. So there was more sold again than are active currently. So that means the absorption rate is over 100%, 114%. Less than a 1 month supply, 0.8 of a month supply. Very strong seller's market. Next page, short sales, 22 of them sold. Only 98 days to get from contract to closing. That's much better. 81.5% absorption rate, 1.2 month supply of inventory. Now, non-distressed in Hillsborough, Again, this is a whopping number year over year. Not too much of a drop month over month, but year over year, the number is significant. Again, it's about 40%, the same as Pasco. But in Hillsborough, that's over 2,000 listings. That's almost 2,100 less listings in Hillsborough this year as opposed to last year. Meanwhile, sales went up by 211 from 2625 up to 2836. The absorption rate, so that means the market got stronger for sellers, obviously, right? And look at the absorption rates. Last year was almost 50%. This year, it's almost 90%. The month supply went from a 2-month supply down to a 1.1 month supply. So I don't know how much more stronger of a seller's market we could ever see. One of the strongest seller's markets in history. So what do? You prepare your buyers for what is to come. How do you prepare your buyers for what is to come? Anybody?
Show them this.
Well, but you got all but these are a lot of numbers they may not understand. They may not know what a seller's market means. They may not, you might know what a 1.1 month supply of inventory means, but they might not understand what that means as far as behavior.
Well, you have to.
So how are buyers supposed to behave in a 1.1 month supply of inventory?
Be ready to buy.
They got to act fast.
Be ready to buy.
Gary, one of the things to do is get a TBD loan approval. In other words, go through underwriting and have their loan fully approved. So all they have to do is find the house and do the inspections and the appraisal, and that's it.
Perfect, exactly. Van Dyke has a TBD program. It calls to be determined. In other words, the house is to be determined because the buyer has already gone through mortgage underwriting and mortgage approval. All the verifications are done. So all they're doing is waiting for a house, and the house has to pass appraisal, basically. Okay, and that's the only way that a buyer that needs to get a mortgage can potentially compete with a cash buyer right now, is to be already approved through the TBD program with Van Dyke. Okay, and it's an excellent program. So I would definitely have your buyers pre-approved. I would definitely prepare them for competition and ask them about how they feel about competition, because this is a competitive environment. And so what's going to happen, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer? We go out in the marketplace. You fall in love with the house, and well, first of all, how long is it going to take you to go out to see it once I tell you a house becomes available? If they say a week, that house is already sold, right? Next, how long is it going to take you after you look at it and like it to try to buy it? How long do you need to think about it? Because while you're thinking about it, other people are writing offers. So you have to create a sense of urgency by explaining to them what's going on in this market. Because what you don't want to do is have show buyers houses and invest all that time and find out that they've fallen in love with the house, but they need their parents' approval. They need to have other people that need to look at it. You want to ask that question in advance. Is anyone else going to need to see the house also before you make a decision on purchasing it? Then that might be a good idea if they came with you the first time. Because I just had several properties where we went to write an offer, and there was already 5 offers on it. Okay. So you need to prepare them for what is to come as far as those situations. What else can you do? TBD program. A personal letter written with the offer, right? Having a conversation with the selling agent and fill them in on how much on the quality of your buyer. Don't just let them, say, send me the offer and we'll see what happens. Don't just accept that. Have a conversation with them. If you're in that environment, my input to you is find an expired that no one knows about that isn't even on the market. Find a FSBO that no one else is interested in. Do circle prospecting and find a house in a neighborhood that is off the market that would consider selling. And that way you don't have those issues. But in this environment, you have to prepare buyers for what's to come. Otherwise, you're going to be costing yourself time and aggravation, and your buyers might get the same feeling. Might get aggravated, might get discouraged. Does that make sense? for a buyer. For a seller, you want to prepare them for multiple offers. You want to prepare them for how to handle those situations. And the best thing we can do for a seller is set them up for success and make sure they don't take their house off the market for a lot of contingencies when they don't have to. For a buyer, you might want to consider using the escalation clause, which means you'll pay a certain amount of money more than the highest offer that they get. You can limit it or you don't have to limit it. But that might be one way that you can win in competition for a seller's listing, for a seller's house. Okay. All right, let's move forward, Tamara. Thank you. Next page. Thanks. Here we go. Hillsborough County. Look at how many more pendings there are than actives. It's exciting. It's good for sellers. Okay. And that's, again, this is just unbelievable. That's how valuable getting listings is right now. Okay. And it's how competitive it is for buyers looking for listings. Let's look at the data now that we get from the board that Denise Vergadamo provides for us. She works hard putting this together. It takes time, and it's very nice of her to do this. And we like this format because it presents 6 years, 5-6 years of data, 5 years. And here we go. In Pinellas County, last year there were 5,106. This year, 3,756. That's 1,350 less listings, 26.4% less. Sales, meanwhile, increased from 2,120 up to 2,340, which is 220 sales. So that's 10.4% increase in sales in the middle of a 26.4% drop in active inventory. So the market got stronger for sellers year over year. The other things I want you to look at is go back up to the listing numbers. Is 3,756 the lowest number on this 5-year history?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the lowest number since we've been tracking of active inventory. To give you a perspective, in earlier when the market was a buyer's market, we've had as many as 18,000 active listings. Number of sales. Scroll down a little further to the sales. Thank you, sweetheart. Do you see any number larger than 2,340? I see a couple. Yeah, I see March and May of 2017. So, but still, and also May of 2019. So it's in the top 5 of number of sales in a particular month.
June.
All right. Scroll down a little further. Okay, I like the next page because it gives us the active listings by price class on the top half, and the bottom half gives us the number of sales by price class month by month and cumulatively. Just out of curiosity, normally we find that the highest month supplies are in the higher price ranges. But let's look. Look between 900 and 1 million. How many active listings are there?
66.
Oh, Dave says Keller Mortgage has a TBD option too. They call it UW approved. Thanks, Dave, for sharing that information. So you have other options. TBD and Keller Mortgage has a similar type program. 66 active listings. How many sold? 17. So how do we figure out the absorption rate? 17 divided by 66. What's that number? Anybody?
Hang on.
It's 25.7%. And the month supply of inventory is 3.9 months supply of inventory. So my point is even between 900 and 1 million, 3.9 month supply of inventory is probably one of the lowest month supplies we've seen in the higher end even in the higher price ranges, it's a seller's market. But you do want to customize it based on their area, okay? So let's scroll a couple pages further. There's the graph on the next page. And you can see as the month gets smaller, that means the market's getting tighter because inventory is dropping. So when the month gets tighter, the market for sellers is stronger. When the month is open more, it's a better market for buyers. Big mouth buyers, small mouth sellers. Next, Pasco County. 2,953 actives, 1,772 now, total. That's 1,181 less listings or 40% drop year over year. Do you see any number on that page less than 1,772 for active listings for the last 5 years? No, that's the lowest amount of active listings in Pasco County too, ever. Now for sales, we see 1,456 up by 156 sales. So down by 40, up by 12. Stronger sellers market. Do you see any number greater than 1,456 in that number of sales from 2016 forward? No, there's not. May of 2018 was 1,421. So that's the highest number of sales in the lowest amount of inventory. It's an unbelievable combination. Okay, and let's scroll to that same page in Hillsborough. A couple more pages forward, and then we'll call it a day. Look at how small that mouth is. Wow, big mouth, small mouth. Strong sellers market. And here we go, Hillsborough. 5,713 actives down to 3,605. 2,108 less listings. Do you see any number less than 3,605? So we have the lowest active inventory in Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough that we've ever had. Plain and simple. So when you have a thing that's in short supply, it has more value. That's why I'm recommending to you to find different ways to get listings. Use all the ways you've been using, add a few more. Thank you, Tim. Scroll down to the seller side. Look at that. With 2,108 less listings, there were 188 more sales. 2,835. Is there any number greater than that in that sold section? So in the months, except for Pinellas, in Pasco and Hillsborough, in the months where there was the lowest amount of active inventory in history, we had the highest amount of sales in history. That reveals how much demand there is for listings right now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Gary?
Yes.
There was an article, or I saw something about the exodus out of places like New York. Do you think that's, that seems like that could be feeding a lot of our buyers?
I don't know. I would just be speculating, Brian. I don't know. I don't know that.
Okay.
I mean, when Florida's numbers spiked, there was probably people that wanted to get out of Florida, but I don't know about permanently. But I can see why people would want to get out of New York permanently.
Well, it was an article on the number of vacant apartments. People moving out was the article was about. It wasn't about the Corona goo.
I tell you, I've seen more out-of-state license plates in Florida now at this time of year than I ever have before.
Oh yeah, from all over the place.
Yeah, even with numbers so high. I mean, they don't want to fly anywhere, so they're just driving down here to the sunshine, So that's interesting. So it could be driven by that too. Yeah.
Brian, were you talking about apartments like rentals that now are empty?
Yeah, that might have been the article. But basically it was talking about, how, everybody rents up there, and, just due to the shenanigans, all the riots and stuff, people are leaving.
Well, here's another thought that might have caused that, is if those apartments were rented by the younger people who lost their job. They might have moved out of the rental and moved back home, and that's why they're empty. You know, the 20-something-year-olds that are renting apartments and have maybe restaurant jobs, things like that, and they got laid off and they can't make the rental payment, and so they move back in with mom and dad.
I just figured they wanted to leave that place and come to the great state.
And they should.
Yes, they should. They should. Anybody else? Any ahas or questions that you have?
Gary,
go ahead.
What was the name of that subscription service that was $20 a month?
KCM. K as in Keller. C.
Put it in the I put it in the chats. KeepingCurrentMatters.com is where you want to go and find that information.
Thank you.
It's shortened. KCM is the initials, but that's the website.
Right. I think you can get it by just doing kcmblog.com too. I think you can get to it that way too. I'm not sure, but that's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Ahas, questions? Have a great month. Thanks for your time, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.